Okay, drone overview of the properties. Look at that white marking on the tree and the white fence post. That is actually done by the Army Corps of Engineers to mark the transition between private property and the take line at Bull Shoals Lake. So we know that we're launching the drone. We're facing southerly. We're launching, we could probably pinpoint the spot if we looked at the map. I believe it's toward the east side of tracts 11 or 12. There's the map right there. So you've got about 16 tracts. You can see the county road going southerly down to the lake and the shaded area, which is the take line and the core land. If you look at that pink trail to lake at the bottom there, that's kind of a secret trail. Only the locals know about that. It's not on maps, and that leads right down to the lake. Very few people use it, so it's a cool place to go and fish or take your truck and potentially even a small boat or jet ski down there, although there are actual public launches in the area as well. You can see the power line off to the right, and that's the county road on the left. And there's one of the small parts of Bull Shoals Lake there, a little cove within Elm Hollow. And looking out more toward the main channel as we look south. So that county road goes down, and look at that peninsula that juts out at the end here. That's where that kind of secret trail is that goes right down to the water. And toward the end of this video, we've got another video that we spliced on to show that. Now looking westerly, and that's looking toward the west side of about the tracks in the middle. That meadow you see is just west of the properties. So several of them are going to go right up to that meadow basically. From the county road, going the way we are going west, it slopes down to a little creek bed and then slopes up until you get to this west side where they basically begin to level out a little bit. Hard to tell from the drone video. Now we're turning south. You can see a little bit more how they do slope as you move westerly. And there's obviously Bull Shoals Lake, which is phenomenal. Awesome lake for just about any water sports. Skiing, water skiing, tubing, fishing, obviously swimming. Quite a few people scuba dive. There are some underwater caves and just a lot going on. It's one of the few large lakes in the area where you can catch big walleye as well as a lot of other species of fish. Okay, heading back to the east. So quite a few of these tracks do have direct frontage on the take line. As we look south on the left side of the road there, that's going to transition from the private tracks to the take line on Bull Shoals Lake. So if you own a track with frontage on the take line, you can literally go right from your property onto the Corps of Engineer land and the lake itself. Fish or swim right from your property, essentially, just crossing over the Corps land, which is public land. Now we've switched over to this next video, which is, I believe this will show that peninsula at the south end with what we showed as the pink trail on the earlier map. So this is a trail we kind of noticed on Google Maps. It wasn't marked, so we checked it out, and it did exist, and we drove right down to the water. There was a little turnaround spot. You can see some shrubs and whatnot, kind of that look like they're growing in the water. So since this is a Corps of Engineer, Army Corps of Engineer controlled lake, they raise and lower the water level at the dam way down in Arkansas. And when they keep it low, those shrubs grow up, and then when they raise the water level to where it is now, I imagine those shrubs would get choked out after a few days or weeks or whatnot. So there's the long peninsula looking northerly on that. That trail goes up, and then you can get to the county road right there. You're going to want a truck or an SUV, essentially for any tracts on a gravel road, but definitely if you're going to drive down to to the lake on the secret trail. We'll call it the secret trail. That sounds cool. So now looking north, that straight cut line that you see that kind of looks like the county road, that's actually the power line. So basically all these tracts do have a power line either on site or within just a few feet. Awesome properties. They really are special. So there's a cove obviously on Bull Shoals Lake that we're looking at. And since that is actually Elm Hollow, one would think that that would be Elm Hollow Cove, but you never know. And now looking south, I hope we get a little altitude because Bull Shoals Lake is one of the prettiest lakes you'll ever see. It's huge. Something like 60,000 acres of water on this lake. Unbelievable lake. And with that Corps land, Corps of Engineer kind of buffer strip around the whole lake, we've been told you can actually use that for hunting as well. So similar to National Forest, where if you happen to be able to find a property that borders the National Forest, you can use that almost as your backyard to some extent. It's public land, so you can go in there and you can hunt and explore. And we've been told that's the case on Bull Shoals Lake. So looking west, and once you check out any of the individual listings, they should each have their own drone video, their own ground video. This is just more of a nice overview of the area, where each one of the specific tract videos would probably obviously focus more on a specific tract. We thought this might be great to kind of see the whole works at once, or most of it anyway. And it looks like it was a beautiful day, so I'm sure they were having fun playing with the drone. So we're drifting south, but we're looking north. Got the cove. And with just 15 or 16 tracts, this is going to remain a very nice, quiet area. The county road ends just past Elm Hollow. And then, as we mentioned, you have, I think, what we will now call the secret trail, which leads down to, if you could see that red truck, that's our one of our red trucks at the very end of that peninsula there. The guys said they really had no problem driving down there. It definitely more of a trail than a road, but it was wide enough. They had no issues. They did not need four-wheel drive, but they were glad they had four-wheel drive. So, and now I think we may just kind of explore the area for a couple minutes, which is always pretty fun, actually. And you will see, especially on this section of Bull Shoals Lake, you'll see a few bass boats, small bass boats, and you'll see families with a pontoon pulling a tube with their kids behind it. It's a beautiful section of the lake for fishing and for recreation. There definitely are, I guess, party areas on Bull Shoals Lake, but this is not one of them. But you can get to the party areas if that's what you want to do. It'll just take you a few minutes because it's a big lake. Okay, so now we're seeing how close we can get to the water, maybe. The wildlife out here, phenomenal. The white-tailed deer and the wild turkey. This is far enough out of town that there's not a lot of hustle and bustle. Obviously, being on a dead-end road is nice for privacy and for wildlife. And by the way, there are tons of little resorts in the area. There are marinas within just a few miles. The town of Theodosia is about 5 or 6 miles to the west, the northwest. And it's a small town, but it's an active town because it's one of the hubs, certainly on the north end of Bull Shoals Lake. And they have a couple nice marinas there. But if you Google Bull Shoals Lake, I mean, you will get so much information. It would take you days to sift through it all. If you want to focus in a little more, Google Theodosia and Bull Shoals Lake. So Theodosia, Theodosia. And these tracks will actually have in Isabella. Let me see if I have that in the notes. Yes, they'll actually have an Isabella, Missouri mailing address if you do ever get a mailing address once the property's paid off or whatnot. Beautiful shot of the lake right there. Wow. And that's such a small fraction of the lake. But Isabella really is just one of those towns that is more of a maybe one store or one restaurant. So Theodosia would be the larger town, and it's not very large either. But for the town of the lake, it's pretty well known. There's a good map. You can see the Elm Hollow tracts looking west from there, looking left, Highway 160, and then on the other side of the lake is Theodosia. There's a beautiful bridge that goes over the lake. Numerous public access areas, and sometimes on large lakes there's a lack of those. In this case, there may be in other areas on the lake, but in this area we've seen several. So even if you have a very large boat, you can use a nice public access area or a marina. Pay the $5 or $8 or whatever and put your boat in the water there. But yeah, there are nice public access areas. Stunning property. Not only to be in this area, but for some of these tracks to have actual take line frontage is phenomenal. The county road frontage is great. We love county road frontage as opposed to paved road frontage for a lot of reasons. And one of them is that it's just so much more private. You won't have people buzzing up and down the roads at 80 miles an hour on a county road. Everybody slows down. So now looking straight down at the southern tip of a little peninsula at the end of the secret trail. Awesome, awesome properties. Check out the website if you haven't already seen it, and give us a shout if you have any questions.